How is it going, you lovely lot? Welcome back to what is the final video of Park to Prem FM24. The final video in this room. On this, I don't know why I'm doing a twirl. It's the last video I will ever record in this room. We are moving house. I'm moving house. You know, you're kind of coming with me, I suppose. And yeah, to mark the occasion, we're back for one last time with Park to Prem in the future. Down in the description of this video is a link to where you can download all the in the future save games, as well as some save games at various points earlier on in the series. We're here to start my manager profile, where I'm 93 years old, and damn, I look good for my age. I've not had a job in 50 years, and, well, we are back to see how Rugby Town doing 50, and then we are going to go further forward another 50 to 100 years in the future. Now, when we left things last time, Rugby was still in the Premier League, but as some of you observed, they had like £1 billion in loan debt, which is a little bit concerning. I suppose the question logically now is, 50 years later, are they still in the Premier League? The answer is yes. Oh my, okay. Do you know what? Ignore the whole Premier League thing. Ignore the fact they've been relegated. Have you seen their stadium name? They play at the Work the Space Park. They built a stadium and named it after me. I feel a little bit emotional. Imagine if it had been named after Arteta. That would have been disastrous. We're still considered a club legend all these years later. They've still only won one Champions League, 5 Premier League titles. They've not had any more Premier Leagues or anything, really, since Arteta left the club. And looking at this league history, they've dropped down to the Championship a few times. Their loan debt has shrunk a little bit, but still £103 million of loan debt. Club balance, 36 million. They have just stayed up in the Premier League, crucially. Now, first and foremost, if you're wondering about managers over the last however many years, from the looks of things here, they've got 3 managers rather quickly. Lots of people have been sacked. Lots of people have moved on. In fact, I'm looking at the duration at club here. This is crazy, isn't it? When you consider that I was at the club for, 12 years, and then Arteta was there for 12 years as well. The fact that in the last many, many years, Benjamin Davis here, who spent 4 years at the club, is the longest servant. It's a little bit sad. This man, by the way, is only 44 years old. He was at Wolves for a year. He's now the manager of Leipzig at 44. He took over Rugby Town 8 years ago. So he was Rugby Town manager at the age of 36. He started managing Swansea Uni. I mean, this man is doing the real Park to Prem, but the journeyman edition, isn't he? I mean, fair play. I'm kind of surprised he moved from Linfield to Rugby Town. That does make me feel like Rugby Town have dropped off a little bit. And I suppose the easy way to check this is to go to history, then, what's the thing I want here? Domestic leagues. This is the thing I want. Here we have the league history for Rugby Town every single year. Now, when we left things, it would have been, what year would it have been? 53. And they were in the Premier League. They'd finished 3rd and then dropped down to 12th, which is a kind of disastrous fall. They then managed to get 6th, you can see, in 55. And from there, well, a couple of years of European football, and then suffered their first relegation in the 2065 year. So that's actually not that far after we left things last time. That is less than 30 years after I left the club. They were relegated for the first time. They bounced back immediately, stayed in the Premier League for a few years before finishing bottom. They then got promoted again. Have they become a yo-yo club? Kind of. They've dipped down into the Championship on 3 occasions, the most recent of which was 2 years ago. In fact, no, that's not 2 years ago. That's last year. They dropped down to the Championship. They got promoted via the playoffs on that occasion. But yeah, when you look at the league history, they have not had a finish in the top half of the Premier League in the last 20 years. Their best player, by the way, if you're wondering, is Fabricio Cepesdes. Definitely said that wrong. I mean, I can't read, so it's not my fault. This guy, though, Peruvian, 31 years old, naturally can play striker or defensive mid, because it's Football Manager. Also, look at the traits he can do. When you ask him, what traits do you have, Fabricio? He just says yes. He has them all. Now, just taking a wider look at the Premier League, Everton have won the Premier League for the year just gone. They finished on 87 points, and Duro here was their top goal scorer. This is the man who's fired Everton. I can see why he's fired them to a Premier League title. In fact, Everton, from the looks of things, at least at first glance, have been pretty big in this universe. They play at the Dixie Dean Arena. You can see they've won the league on a number of occasions, actually, as of late. Their best player isn't the man we just looked at. It's this guy, Richard Griffiths. He's bloody good, isn't he? He's very, very good. I did spot here, he had a year in Qatar. Of course he did. The future of football's weird. In terms of teams in the Premier League, there's no one too outrageous. AS Hull, Reading. Yeah, I mean, it's just championship teams, isn't it? I thought things might have been shaken up more by this year in the future. If you're wondering about past winners, Arsenal, Everton, and Chelsea. Chelsea won the league so many times. They turned the league into a farmers' league. They won it 12 out of 13 years, if I can count correctly, very, very quickly there. Oh my word. It's a long time, isn't it, since Rugby Town won the Premier League. When you look at it like that, it's kind of just a bit sad. Rugby Town don't even show up on the right here. Times of football are changing. Hull, by the way, finished second in 81-82. Hull City finished up there in second, and for the year just gone, they finished 14th. So they've had a bit of a fall from grace, although in this universe, they've been in the Premier League the last 20 years. Now, we did already spot that Rugby Town haven't won any more Champions Leagues, sadly. They won the Champions League for the last time. And the only time in 2043. Finished runners-up in 2049. It's been a long time since they had any meaningful success. I'm looking through things here. They did finish runner-up in the FA Cup in 2078, but besides that, and maybe a championship title, if you want to count that, they've really not achieved a lot. I mean, they won the Conference League in 52. I feel like that's not something you want to add to the CV, is it? Rugby Town, they've had a bit of a barren spell over the last 25 years since last In the Future video. I did notice on their history there was a new player in the Legends category. I can't look at them. Roderick Eloy, the mystery of this person. Last year I did this and someone did an amazing response. If anyone wants to write a fake biography for Eloy, tell me about him. It's like a Wikipedia paragraph or two in the comments. Someone make up a backstory for this man. He's alongside Alexis de Don in the list, so he must be quite good. So they are playing at this 63,000-seater stadium. They're not filling it out on the regular. Oh my word. Look at their results here. This is depressing. Last time we did the In the Future video, we were checking out how far they got in the Champions League. This year, I'm clicking here to see they lost to Walsall in the AFL Cup. Yeah, I feel like that's an indictment of where things have gone. Now, of course, when it comes to stuff like best 11s, now some of our players have started to just fall off the list. Inevitably, you sim 50 years into the future, there's players that stick around for a while. But what I will say is, in and amongst all these players, there's still a fair few of our own. Mark Anderson, second highest amount of league games played for the club, but the leader is still Bailey Salmon. I feel like no one is going to get close to that record for him. If we do just look at the overview records here, David Kolodinsky still has the most league goals by a player. Bailey Salmon, the most league appearances. Fonny, most clean sheets. You know what? What I'm realising here is that Rugby Town really did peak under myself and Arteta, didn't they? Here are the attendances, by the way. So you can see they got the new stadium built in 65, 66, and they had 60,000 fans turning up for every game from the looks of things. In fact, if we look at the average attendances here, 65, 66, they had 61,000 fans come to every game. It really has dropped off in recent years. If you want a ticket for a Premier League game, Rugby Town is a place to go watch it. Interesting to note, when you look at the kind of finances they've actually spent on players, they've really not spent all that much on players. I'm trying to look for their biggest transfer in recent years. It'd be Jack Thomas from Wolves for 40 million. Sadly, we can't click on him to find out more. Of the players that are still active, they signed Sadak here for how much did they spend on Sadak? 32.5 million. They have been scammed there, haven't they? This guy generated, by the way, in the National League North, so he was actually quite a good player. 32 million, and he's done that. I mean, how many league? 5, 7, 9, 11, 15. I'll tell you what, he's got 24 Premier League goals in a decade. 1 year he wasn't in the Premier League, but it's not great, is it? Also, I am just slating this bloke. I realise he is the captain. So, am I allowed to do that? I like the idea I get wheeled to Rugby Town games in my 90s and I just sit there bitching about the captain being rubbish. You know what, that probably is quite realistic. Have noticed as well, the facilities have dropped off a little bit. I'm somewhat concerned for the club here. If we look at the season preview, they were predicted to be 16th, so they must have a little bit of strength in their team, but compared to, well, everyone else, they're not looking so good. I mentioned the fact that Everton have climbed up a lot. One team I didn't really acknowledge him to be quite good in this universe is Nottingham Forest, playing at the Brian Clough Arena. Media prediction of 4th. You can see here, they've been very consistently towards the top of the Premier League. And because I know people will ask, just as a reminder, the save game is in the description. I recommend downloading it to look at all the nitty-gritty details. Here is a quick look at the various leagues in England. West Ham, Luton and Brentford, 3 Premier League clubs as of this year in real life. Obviously, Luton, RIP, all relegated from the Championship in this universe. As for League One, is there any shocking teams here? Not really. I did see some comments, by the way, about this Sutton United. There are 2 Sutton Uniteds in the world. This Sutton United play near Birmingham, I've since discovered. They started way down in the massive lower leagues. I think they are the team that have climbed the most in this save game. But yeah, there's not a glitch. It's not like there's 2 of the real Sutton United. This is an actual football club. Yeah, they were playing both in League One when we look 25 years in the future. Over in League Two, Bolton are just still doing Bolton things. Crew doing Crew things as well, just going up and down between League Two and League One. Further down, I can see here Horsham, our former affiliates, are down in 11th. There is the Sutton United we were talking about in 16th. And I'm looking for like a giant team that's dropped down here. There isn't really one in League Two. I'm talking kind of current Premier League team when I say a giant team that have dropped down. As for the National League, there's not a huge team that I'm kind of spotting here as oh my word, I can't believe they've fallen this far down. What about in the north and south? No, not really. Darlington going up to the National League. That's fun. Fully aware there probably is a massive team and I'm just kind of missing it. Here we have the National League South, where Rugby Town, the Welsh team, made it into the division. They've been relegated immediately. Wycombe Wanderers are down here. Corinthian Casuals. Do you remember this team? We saw them all the way up in League One when we were 25 years in the future. They're a team that are locked as amateur. They have tumbled down the leagues in recent years. So it needs to rebuild this football club. Going to be difficult, of course, because they can only sign amateur players. Now, of course, I know some people are going to be like, can you show the World Cup, the Champions League, just everything? Save games are available for download. I feel like this video is meant to be more about Rugby Town, and I'm already getting off track. We've still got another 50 years to go forward in time too. I am going to be 143 years old in game. I think the manager just gets stuck at 99 years old. If you were wondering, Football Manager does go on forever. Let's hope that the Rugby Town legacy does too. They have been in and out of the Premier League. I'm hoping they're going to re-establish themselves. Let's go find out together. Okay, folks, here we are for one final time. I'm actually 100 years old. I'm stuck at 100. Not got a job in the last few years. It's a good job Rugby Town paid me so well. Speaking of Rugby Town, where art thou? Premier League and consistently Premier League. Still playing at the Space Park. They've upgraded their facilities. There's very little loan depth left. They've got Suarez as their key player. He actually looks bloody good. I don't want to say it too loudly. I think Rugby Town might be back. Also, this guy's been at the club for 8 years. Signed on a free transfer. Tell you what, whoever signed him, good manager. Now, speaking of the managers, I was kind of clicking around here, hoping there was going to be some people who have been here for a while. Jordan Grundy and George Oliver, thank you very much for sticking around and looking after my football club. One of them won the Conference League. The other won the FA Cup. They were both sacked eventually, sadly, but good to see the club having some long-term custodians. Elsewhere, they had a manager who was at the club for 10 years as well. I can't click on him, sadly. He's retired, Enoch, but he joined the club in 93 and left in 2104. That doesn't sound like a real date, does it? Yeah, it doesn't have the best win percentage, but he stuck out of the club for a while. I have noticed here, 4 promotions, 3 relegations. The team's been doing the hokey-cokey, haven't they, in the Championship? That's what's happened since I was last here. Now, just looking at tournaments won. Look at this. They've won the FA Cup in 21-35. 2 years ago, they won it. And in fact, they won it in 2019, 21-21, and 21-22. Rugby Town are back. They've not won a Premier League since. In fact, they've not even finished in the top 3 of the Premier League in the last however many years. But good to see the team getting some silverware. And in fact, they won the Europa League in, 21-17. And were runners-up a few years ago. Good to see they're still bottling finals. I am also noticing here this Championship list of achievements. It's slowly growing. They have won, by the way, the Carabao Cup on a few occasions too. And come runner-up. I feel like they've established themselves as more recently a Premier League team. But I'm sure if we look at this league history, it's going to tell quite a tale based on the fact there was a manager who'd been promoted and relegated kind of 4 times. And I'm looking at things here. There's a big smattering of the Championship over that period of time we were just previously talking about. When we were here last time, just as a reminder, we were in 87, where they just finished 15th. They'd done really well, and unfortunately, they got relegated immediately. They finished 18th in the Premier League in 87-88. They then, for the first time, didn't go up right away. They were stuck in the Championship, finished 8th outside the playoffs. The following year, they won the title with 85 points, got relegated again, won the Championship, this time in 98 points, got relegated again, finished 7th and missed out on the playoffs, then bottled the playoffs once, bottled the playoffs twice, won the Championship, got relegated again. Have you heard this movie before? They then got promoted and got relegated again. They then finished 20th and they got 3rd and won the playoffs. And then from there, I mean, look at it. You don't need me to give you the play-by-play here. There was a lot of toing and froing for an extended period of time, but eventually they have just re-established themselves in the Premier League. In fact, they've not been relegated from the Premier League now in 30 bloody years. And in fact, when we look at the league positions here, they've had some really good finishes in recent years. 6th place in the 21-31 season, I think, is the best. Is that one of the best since we ended things here at the team? If I go to Premier League finishes exclusively, sorted by position, does the game want to do this for me? The game is very confused as to what I want it to do here. Their best finish in many, many years, 5th place, 21-32-33. I think I missed that one before. That is their best finish in pretty much 100 years. So that's good to see. Now, admittedly, for the year just gone, they have finished 8th. But you know what? In the grand scheme of things, I feel like this is a resounding success. They've paid off their debt. They've got some good players, and they've got a key player. It's not a key player, sorry, a hot prospect for the future that they've signed from Iraq. This guy generated as a free agent. Rugby Town have signed him for 75k. This screams like Football Manager human transfer, doesn't it? This is the kind of transfer that as a human manager you dream of making. He looks very good. So Rugby Town haven't been winning the Premier League. If you're wondering who has been winning the Premier League, Hull City. Hull have stuck around for the last 50 years towards the top of the Premier League, which seems absolutely mad. I say that, in fact, they've only won it once in the last 20 years, so it's not that insane. I'm looking at the past winners here. Hull City, Everton, Wolves. Liverpool have won a title here and there. Aston Villa got one in 21-24. In fact, they got another one a little bit earlier in 21-16. Everton, quite good at football. In fact, Everton have just been dominant, haven't they? Chelsea, of course, had that era that we mentioned before. We saw Everton win the league. And to be honest, Everton have just been the best team consistently for a very, very long time. Crystal Palace finishing runners-up in recent years as well. In terms of the actual teams currently in the Premier League, I'm looking for weirdness. Is there weirdness here? I mean, Rugby Town still just stands out, doesn't it, as the weird team, even 100 years in the future. If you're wondering about the season preview, Man City were still favourites. So, you know what? A lot's changed in 100 years. Man City's still the favourites. I do think it's interesting to look at Rugby Town's wage structure here. They've got a guy that we've already looked at on £450,000 a week. They've then got Marlon here, who is English. Marlon Everington. You know what? I thought when I read Marlon, I thought Brazilian, but actually, he's just a really bloody good English player, isn't he? Look at this guy. Signed for 66 million. He's been quite good for them over the years, although he is, if I'm not mistaken, on £375,000 a week. That is more, I think, than anyone we were paying. Silvano is a Brazilian striker they've got. This guy's very, very good. He was signed for £30 million. St. Pat's in Ireland signed him for 20 million. What are St. Pat's doing here? They've got 50 million in the bank. They finished second the last few years. Have they had a tycoon owner takeover or something? They had a tycoon takeover 12 years ago. Who have they finished second in the league to? Derry City, currently top. Of Derry had there's 2 tycoon takeovers in the Republic of Ireland. I'll tell you what, if you want a save game for fun, download the save game off the Google Drives and head to Ireland, apparently. I'm going to check. Bohemians, are you owned by a tycoon? No. There's just 2 giant clubs in Ireland dicing it out. I kind of love that. Anyway, I'm getting very, very distracted here. This is meant to be a Rugby Town video. We're not meant to be looking at what's going on in Ireland. Forgive me for getting distracted. This guy, though, not bad, but when you look at the overall kind of wages these players are on, they've got a few players on a load of money, and then they've gone budget at the bottom. Yeah, it's not great kind of planning, I feel like, of the squad. Now, one thing that we did look at in a previous video was players homegrown at Rugby Town, and I like to look at this just to see, is Rugby Town still producing players that are going to have really good careers? And the answer appears to be yes. Rugby Town signed this guy in a free transfer, then sold him for 118 million. Now, he's homegrown at Rugby. He didn't generate a Rugby. This guy, Huestra, is absolutely insane, isn't he? He's one of the best box-to-box midfielders in the world. Rugby signed him on a free. They sold him for £118 million, which I suppose is good, but I feel like they should have kept him. He's absolutely mad. He's only 25 years old now. Another player homegrown at club is Andrew Williams. Now, this guy moved to Saudi Arabia the year just gone. Before that, though, look at this career for Rugby Town. This is what we love to see. Came through the academy, played for them at a young age, went on to make 529 appearances for Rugby. You know what? I love the fact that there's still players like this who've gone on to have almost 100 caps for England that we're able to generate as a result of all that investment we put into youth. Words are hard. El Amrani here, another player that they signed, Rugby Town, that went on to have a really good career. They sold him for £40 million, and now he has ended up being Real Madrid's starting goalkeeper. And Reading, who we've already established are quite good, have this guy, who, well, Rugby Town sold to Everton for 46 million. I'm going to say it now. Rugby Town scammed Everton. There's a guy from the Faroe Islands who generated at Rugby Town, was moving to Ross County, you can see here, for £13 million. He now plays for Heidenheim. Just Faroe Islands regens generating at Rugby Town. And elsewhere, Amari McKenzie here, generated at Rugby Town, was sold to Warsaw, who then went on to Hertha Berlin. Do Warsaw have a load of money? Kind of. Okay, sorry. I don't want to get distracted again. You know, we mentioned yo-yo clubs earlier. This is the most yo-yo-y thing I think I've ever seen. Look at this history. Promoted, relegated, promoted, relegated, promoted, relegated. They've been promoted, what, 7 times in the last 10 years, Warsaw. Imagine being a Warsaw fan. Just to be clear, I don't mean that as a dig. I just kind of mean in this universe. I'm sure there's some lovely Warsaw fans out there. Looking at the championship, the final has not yet been played. Bury could get to the big time. Bury, who of course were vanquished from the Football League, and in fact in this universe have appeared in the Premier League on a few occasions, on the cusp of returning. That could be quite a fun save game if you decide to play on in the future of this one. Further down, Southampton being relegated from the championship alongside Luton. Down in League One, let's have a look at things here. Sutton have just chilled, haven't they, for this whole thing? They've been promoted to the Championship here. Norwich have been relegated with Sunderland to League 2, so that is a bit of a fall from grace. Over in League 2, speaking of which, Bristol Rovers. I said Bristol Rovers thing, and that's a big thing. Now, Bristol Rovers are kind of just around this level, aren't they? Boston United fans celebrate. You're staying up in the Football League as Lincoln City go down. That's a callback to like 2005, 2006, when Boston were relegated and Lincoln stayed up. I realise I'm just talking about Lincolnshire football here, but you can't guess where I'm from. MK Dons have just been promoted from the National League, where Stoke City are down here, alongside the likes of Preston North End, Salford, and Plymouth Argyle. I'll tell you what, there's a few more teams that have dropped down in the long-term future to the National League. It makes me wonder, is there anyone who's going to be down here in the kind of National North? Burnley. Burnley are down here in the National North. Huddersfield down as well, but I guess Burnley's the big shock there, isn't it? 11th place Burnley. They were in the Championship 15 years ago. They've got £75 million worth of loan debt. Their finances are insecure. I don't know what to say. It's not great if you're a Burnley fan, this universe. And over in the National South, is there any weirdness going on here? I feel like the National South, for the most part, looks kind of normal. There's a few teams that have dropped down from kind of the League 2, League 1 level. But in general, there's nothing too outrageous here, I don't think. We will just have a quick look at the FA Cup here. I really want to just scroll down and see if there was any mad upsets besides, of course, Rugby Town winning it not that long ago. I'll be honest, looking at things here, besides the odd Rugby Town, there's no one who looks outrageously out of place winning the FA Cup. What I will say is it's nice to see that whilst there have been eras of dominance for certain teams in the Premier League, it does feel like the FA Cup has been shared around a little bit, with the exception of Chelsea in the 60s. Yeah, Chelsea did not like sharing back then. And you know what? I said I wasn't going to do it. I'll do it for you. Here are the past World Cup winners over the last many, many years. Norway won it in 2030. England have won it on a couple of occasions. Poland won the World Cup in 2054. I'm sure the Polish massive out there are pumping their fist to that. Besides that, I'll be honest, it's not really that outrageous. Northern Ireland finished runners-up in 2034. Northern Ireland finished... Sorry, where are they ranked in the world? Northern Ireland are ranked 13th in the world. What's happening with Northern Irish football? Now I need to know. The vice-captain plays for Banbridge in the Northern Irish Premier League. Yeah, what I need to know what's happening here. What is anything happening here? This team have £60 million in the bank. They've got a tycoon takeover. In fact, they've had 2 tycoon takeovers in a row. Ballina United. Have tycoons just taken over the whole of the UK and Ireland without me knowing? This team play at a 47,000-seater stadium. Because of course they do. They had a tycoon takeover who has scaled down his funding, but they do still play in a massive 47,000-seater stadium. Do fans turn up to their games? They actually do. Ballyclare Comrades are just chilling. Sorry, this is mad that the world's changed that much. And then Banbridge, who I originally clicked on to look at, they've got 60 million in the bank. They've had a tycoon takeover as well. Is this a thing on the current patch of Football Manager that all these tycoon takeovers happen? It's one of the weirdest universes I've ever seen in Football Manager. I've done a lot of Sims into the future. This is wild. Now, naturally, as we've already established in this video, the more you delve into this save game, the more weird stuff you'd spot. I can't cover it all in a video naturally, otherwise we'd be here forever. But if you do go down in the description and download any of these save files, particularly this one 100 years in the future, I would love to know what you find, because I'm sure there are some just crazy statistics and stuff just out there to be discovered. Anyway, folks, like I said, Part 2 Prem is going to come to a close with this video. We will be starting our save game in Japan. It will either be starting the end of next week or the week after. I am going to try and get some videos up for you guys in the next kind of week, but I am moving house, as some of you will be aware. It's not been a smooth process, sadly, which is a little bit frustrating. It has been, I've been messed around a little bit, but the good news is I think everything is now falling into place. Apologies that there will be a small hiatus in the content. Use it as an excuse to detox or just go back and watch a past Park to Prem. You know what, that's a good use of your time. Go watch a Park to Prem you've not already watched if you've not watched one. And if you have watched one, you've probably forgotten about Town or Town by now. Go back and start at the beginning. Thank you so much for your support on this series from the beginning to the very end. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you find in the save files. I'll see you guys again very soon on the next video. Until then, it is me, Jack, and I'll talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.